Hi everybody, it's Raj and Gabby from Fights Clean Sex Dirty TV.
And relationshipfunandgames.com. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
And we're here to talk to you about how to keep the fights clean as it starts.
Yes, what do you do to avoid the negativity when you feel that tension starting? What do you do to kind of unhook from it, tame that tension, and not just avoid the argument, but actually even create more connection?
Before we dive in, we just want to say shout out to our special guests tonight, Andy and Livy. We're going to say a little bit more about them in a bit.
Yeah, you guys, you're calling in from Boulder tonight, right?
Yes, we are.
Yes. So all the way from Boulder, thanks to technology. I was just expressing gratitude that we can even do all of this work through technology these days, make a difference for couples. So thanks for being here tonight. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about the two of them in just a moment. But first, we just want to remind you a little bit about the structure of the show and where we're going tonight.
Yeah, so if you've been following us, you might know this already, but we're going to review it just so you know how we organize our content. So we work on how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. Yeah, go ahead.
And we do this because the day we got married, friends came up to us, and I really wish I could remember who it was, and they said, just remember, for an awesome marriage, all you need to know is keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. And we like to bring play, and we think it's a fun way. So, but we want to make sure you know we don't think sex is dirty. We think it's awesome. We just think you should save being nasty for the sex life and leave be an angel when it comes to your arguments.
And we further organize our content by looking at the different time frames in which you want to keep the fights clean or the sex dirty, so you can really key in on the content that makes the biggest difference for you.
Yeah, these aren't just like big general theories. We've got some great ones of those and some top level models, but we want you to find the tips and the tricks, the things that are easy to remember. That's why I use alliterations to make them not just fun, but it's easier for you to remember what to do. So when that tension starts to happen, or when you're wanting to go into seduction, whatever it is, you know exactly where to go and look for those tips that are just what you need in that moment.
So we look at before, as it starts, during, and after for both fights clean and sex dirty. And today we're going to be talking about how to keep the fights clean as it starts.
Yes, so this week we wrote all about this topic of the noose of negativity, and there's lots of different ways that arguments arise and to avoid them. Raj and I are going to point to a couple of past tips that we've shared from Season 1 and Season 2, and then we're going to dive in just a little bit and give you some insight into what we talked about this week with the noose of negativity and how you can really eliminate blame, shame, and complain in your relationship. We call it being Blamey-Shamey-Complainy, and all sorts of other great tips from Andy and Livy as well.
Okay, so let's say a little bit more about Andy and Livy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I call them, whenever I think of them, I call them wildly wise. When I first invited them to be on the show, one of the first things they said back was, oh, you know, we're so young, and they are young, and they have a young relationship. Although you guys have been together, what, now 3-4 years?
4 years. With
4 years,
7
yeah.
months.
But you met when you were, what, 23 and 27, very young, right?
23 and 25.
Yeah, and Raj and I, you know, I was 35 when I met him, and he was 39, so, or 38, so very different, but, you know, just the space when you're around, and I know our audience is going to see this instantly as well, not just in relationships and the love that you feel between the two of you and the wisdom of that love, but, you know, I said in so many areas of life, you know, whether it's business, you know, being on the cutting edge of business, or the best parties, you know, I love that full range that you have. We go to Burning Man with this awesome couple as well, and just there's such a wide range between the two of you. And with that range, beautiful balance. You know, when you said, how would you describe us as a couple? And I said, you know, they're unified as a complete couple, and yet they're totally independent and want each other's independence. You know, they're adventurous, and yet they're totally content to just be simple and on their own. They just have a whole depth and breadth. And I know Andy's going through a transition with someone. He was, you know, just leading this awesome company, and he's like creating a new chapter, and he's been really great in this last year of just giving him some space, himself the space to see like what's next. But in the past he's worked with the foundation, and he's got a great newsletter right now called Illumination that I just signed up for, and I'm really enjoying.
Yeah,
but
go ahead, yeah.
I was just going to say Libby as well.
Right. Yeah.
I just thought you had something to say about Andy.
Well, yeah, Andy and I have worked together in the past and had a lot of fun working with his company, The Foundation, so it's good to see you again, Andy.
Yeah, you too.
And Libby's just up to so many things and has changed careers. She's like, you know, kind of a Doogie Howser in her career, like became successful and already is taking a step back and saying, what do I want to do? They just told me tonight that they're on their way back to Bali. They were just in Bali doing yoga and astrology sessions and something called circling with authentic relating, which I'm sure they'll tell you a little bit more about because it's probably something that they're applying into their relationship. Andy and Libby, welcome. Anything you guys want to say?
Thanks so much for having us. We are so happy to be here and be sharing tonight. This is actually the first time that Andy and I have talked together about our relationship, so we're super looking forward to it.
Oh, I was so hoping so. I'm just delighted. We're honored to have this be the first time you talk about relationship. I know you speak on big stages, and Andy, you spoke at the Success 3.0. I saw someone just, you know, was commenting on Facebook about you being featured in the Rise film. That we're honored that the first time you're talking about couples is right here with us at Fights Clean, Sex Dirty TV.
And this makes me way more nervous. Just so.
I'm even more honored. I'm even more honored. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny because you guys are such brilliant speakers, and anyway, it's such an honor to have you guys, and we can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this area of how to keep the fights clean.
But before you change that slide, Raj, I just want to point out this is a quote from Andy and Libby that I just love, that their relationship is essentially designed on this question: how do we build a passionate partnership that fuels the creation of our dreams? And even in that sentence, without saying it directly, they're pointing to both their unity and their commitment to each other and their commitment to their greatest individual selves. And I just love that about you too.
Thanks so much, Libby.
Okay, great. Let's dig in.
Okay, yes. So tonight, keeping the fights clean as it starts. And this is season 3. This is the season of passion, but we also had the season of play and the season of peace. And so we just want to take a moment to point out what a couple of those tips were, because we're only going to give you one of ours tonight, and there are tons of them out there. So from season 1, you want to share those?
Sure. So how to manage moodiness and meltdown. So we have this distinction called the Teflon suit, and we have this fun picture that really represents, you know, sometimes you just need to hold space for your partner, and as they're, you know, vomiting all over you with
emotional vomit, we call it.
You gotta imagine that you have a Teflon suit on where all of that stuff that's coming at you just flows right past you, right, drips right down you, and doesn't impact you at all.
And I just want to acknowledge you, honey, and that you don't have to. In fact, most people don't. It really takes something to detach from when your partner, we're going to talk about being hangry later, but when your partner, you know, has a tough day or they're hangry or some stressful thing has happened and they're just having a challenging time and kind of taking it out on you, it's very common to get in that back and forth and kind of devolve really quickly. So this one is like a really generous choice, and you do it a lot. I thank you for taking that. So you can look for season 1, episode 3 for more on the Teflon suit, and then how to avoid argument on-ramps with season 2, and that's Great Minds Think Alike.
Yeah, this is an awesome tip.
We use this, but it was like our top, at least our top 5.
At least twice every day. So this is when you're just about to do something, and your partner asks you if you're going to do it as you're doing it, but maybe they're in the other room or something like that, or it's on your mind and you're going to do it, and they're like, hey, for example, Raj, take the trash out. What's going on? It's not like, and you're just like opening the bin to actually pull the trash out. And you know, sometimes you can get irritated by the person asking you to do something that you're already doing.
What would you say if you were irritated?
I might say, get off my back.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
Stop nagging me.
Instead,
I was just about to do it.
You can say, great minds think alike. And furthermore, you can also say, I've got this, or I've got you.
And the Great Minds Think Alike, it's like when you're declaring the unity, you're saying we're thinking together, and it has this fun quality. You're like, ooh, like we won, like, oh, Great Minds Think Alike, instead of like, well, I was just about to do that and having it be adversarial.
Yeah, you really want to watch the sarcasm. You don't want to say, great minds think alike, you know. You want to bring some play to it. Great minds think alike.
There's a big difference between sarcasm and humor.
Yeah. And it is that intention, that bringing of the fun and play to these distinctions that make them work.
Andy and Libby, anything about the Teflon suit or Great Minds Think Alike that, you know, sounds familiar in your relationship that you've gotten to move through or learn from?
Oh yeah.
I love the concept of holding space. that you guys mentioned in the beginning, that's definitely something that we practice with each other, because like if you have one person that's so deep in something, whether it's a trigger within the relationship or they're just stressed out about some family issue or something that's happening, like it's so important that your partner, your person, the person you've chosen to be by your side in the world, that they have the ability that when you're in that state of stress, to realize it and to be able to kind of take one for the team or dig a little deep and create a container for you to get the attention that you need. And maybe it's just sharing like what's happening. Maybe it's unleashing. Maybe sometimes it's even a little bit directed towards them. So I love the idea of the Teflon suit, because otherwise, I mean, it'd be kind of like back and forth, teeter-totter, back and forth all the time.
I love that you called it "take one for the team."
Yeah.
Because when we say the Teflon suit and, you know, the emotional vomit, you know, I remember being in college and I was never a big drinker, but clearly there was a lot of binge drinking going on. And, you know, your girlfriend might be throwing up. You don't go, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing that." You get her a bucket and you hold her hair, right? And you're like, "It's okay. It's going to be okay." And so if we could do it for that person, then we can do it for our partner on an emotional level, and it's way less stinky.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing having the space to do that, what actually gets revealed, because you get all of the surface level stuff out, which is just like the frustration and whatever it is, and then generally what I think happens most of the time is it drops down and there's actually something deeper going on. But you just have to wade through the beginning stuff to figure out what that thing is. And it's
right. Also, what I heard in what you were saying, Andy, is it leads to greater intimacy once you get past that initial upset level. Because really, what the person really wants to do is be held and cared for and loved. And in fact, this is a little bonus tip. And we have this posted on our refrigerator. It's so useful.
It's really good. It's one of our new tips.
So the person that has a Teflon suit on, the great words to come out of their mouth are, "Do you need some loving?"
Yeah, so if your partner comes in and they're hangry and they're just all cranky with you, instead of going like, "Don't take it out on me," you know, we say, "Do you need some loving?" And for whatever reason, we both just start laughing. And so today I was having a tough morning. I said, "Yes, I need lots and lots of loving."
Gabby, I was also having a tough morning. This morning, I was in bed, and I said, "Andy, will you go get me some period snacks?"
Nice.
Yeah. So
The kid comes out, and he's got you.
Yeah.
totally showed up. He had like 30 minutes busy with calls. Today was one of his busy work days, and he totally showed up, and he took 30 minutes to go out, and it made me so happy.
Nice job, Andy.
Yeah, and I was going to say, building that trust of when you're showing your partner, like, this is my, you know, some call it shadow, you know, whatever it is, your complaint, you know, when you're showing that and your partner can hold it and not say that, "I think that that's who you are," you know, but this is an experience that you're having and something that's flowing through you and is absolutely fine. You know, Raj and I, we hold that our formula for a wildly successful life is all is well. Like, I totally accept you. There's nothing wrong. All is well. And even better if, which we sometimes call, let's play a game.
How can we make this even better? Yeah, one of the things that I've learned, and then we'll move on in a moment, from this "do you need some loving" thing is when someone's upset, they really are regressing generally to a younger age. And if you imagine them being the little version of themselves, you're not, I mean, sometimes you get upset at your kids and you're going to yell at them, right? But generally, it's like you're so touched with their hurt that you want to give them love. And that's really what they need. And it's amazing how quickly it melts the upset. Yeah.
Raj's dad used to call him Raji, so I just had that thought, honey. Next time you're in that space, I'm going to say, "Raji, do you need some loving?"
Awesome.
Okay, great. So we have one more specific tip that we're going to share with you, and then we're going to start to scratch and sniff and pick at the relationship brain and heart of Andy and Libby and find out what great wisdom they have. But feel free, you guys, anytime you have a story or something when we're going through this, to jump on in.
Yeah.
awesome.
Okay, awesome. Let's dive into the News of Negativity and the trauma-free diet, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. See, I'm always checking now, right? I mean, I can be Gabby's and I can be paying attention. So you just give me a little tug if I'm saying too much, okay? All right, good. Or you can give me the symbol, right? The little too much, too little symbol. Okay, great. So today's tip, this week's tip, we wrote the blog about it, you know, we've been doing posting about it, and really just taking one idea per week and really getting it out there. And so the one in this week, the tip is actually called the drama-free diet. But, you know, I first want you to just think of, you know, that's what to do, but first we want to get present to, like, what's the problem? So if you know what the impact is and you can feel it, then there's more motivation to do something about it. So, you know, two of our, and if you've watched the shows before, you've heard us talk about Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt. They're two of our favorite researchers in relationship. And they came out with a book a few years ago called Making Marriage Simple. And they said that after 30 years of relationship advice, they finally discovered that it's not the big issues that break couples up. It's amazing the kind of crap that couples can weather the storm through. It's the day-to-day negativity, how you treat each other. It's like a lobster in a boiling pot that gets turned up slowly, or the frog, or whatever metaphor you want to use. If you start putting up with these little tensions, then they add up and they add up, and pretty soon something even mundane happens, and you snap and you lose it, and you're like, this relationship is over. Or you wake up one day and you're like, I'm not even attracted to this person anymore. And it's not because they're not attractive. It's because you put up with being nasty and negative with each other.
I like to use the analogy of plaque buildup.
Yes, plaque buildup. This is flossing. This is flossing. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
this tip is going to be flossing for your relationship.
Yeah, if you don't deal with the things as they come up, and also you don't know how to have tools to handle the things that just naturally come up in a relationship, they, like Gabby said, they start degrading at your level of connection, your intimacy, and you start settling for that. So we're really recommending to use these tools and look at them as plaque and floss, and keep your relationship nice and clean and bright and shiny, so you can relate with each other nicely. Yeah.
Now this is the number 2. Negativity is the number 2 thing that's going to cause your relationship harm and just doom it. The number 1, we're going to be doing our webinar tomorrow, our no-cost webinar. You can come to that if you'd like, live, on the number 1 reason that relationships fail and what you can do about it. So I'm not going to go on to that now, but just want to let you know that's the number 1, and that's a surprise. But the number 2 reason is negativity. So we want to see if you can eliminate negativity in your relationship. And you might think, eliminate negativity, that's like crazy. You know, as I mentioned already tonight, you get hangry, life happens, you get stressful, and things come up. However, and that's one thing, you know, I loved that Harville Hendrix and Helen Hunt said avoid negativity, but I didn't get a really great sense of what specifically to do. So we then took the research of our second favorite relationship expert, John Gottman, and he has this idea of the magic ratio. Don't go there just yet. Well, go ahead. You can go there.
Well, we have more to say here. We'll go to that.
We'll come back to that.
I want to talk a little bit about the Blamey-Shamey-Complainy word.
Yes, what is negativity? Go ahead. Why don't you do that?
Yeah, so negativity can fall into general categories of blame, shame, and complain. You know, you can be blaming your partner for something, you can be shaming them about something they did, or you can be complaining about something.
And this is not our definition, this is their definition of negativity. They also said criticizing and even constructive criticism. You should not be doing that with your partner. I know you think they're your favorite pet project and you're going to mold them into this glorious human being. Just let them be the glorious human being that they are.
And so Gabby's really great at naming things, and you know, instead of you saying to your partner, stop shaming me or stop blaming me, which just it just totally escalates things further. She came up with this fun catchphrase: "Are you being Blamey-Shamey-Complainy?" And it's just fun. It brings fun and play, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess I am."
Or even better to say, "Ooh, that was a little Blamey-Shamey-Complainy" to yourself, because you want to, you know, it's fine if your partner catches you, but you want to catch yourself. And when you're catching yourself or catching your partner or your partner's catching you, just remember it's not like, aha, I got you, you're screwing up. It's more like, whoopsie daisy, you're about to fall, let me catch you.
Yeah, and that really speaks to the context of how you relate to each other. Rather, if you're there to support each other and having a great relationship, or you're there to point out issues that aren't working in your relationship, a much different context.
So Andy and Libby, before we go to the what to do to nip this negativity in the bud, how have you seen shame, blame, or complaining or criticism show up in your relationship, and what have you guys done about it?
I guess I can start because I really identify with this. So I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, for anybody who knows that model, and I have always said that I'm really good at finding what's not working And so when you apply that to a relationship or a partner, for the first year or 2 years, one of our constant dynamics was Andy was constantly feeling criticized. And when I realized that what I was really wanting was, you know, for him to know or for things to shift in a certain way, I clearly wasn't getting what I was wanting from criticizing. I was just I was feeling bad and everything. And so I realized that his language and just the language of healthy relationship is positive and creating a game that he wants to win. You know, it's a lot more sexy and exciting for you to be like, honey, you know, it'd make me the happiest woman in the whole entire world. Like, if you go take the trash out right now, versus, did you not take the trash out again? Like,
Nice
what
job.
relationship do you want to be in? Like, so.
Right.
So,
And as I mentioned earlier, the one, I know, let's play a game. So when we have an irritation or something comes up, you know, for example, my hair's pretty long. You guys know I wear it in bun a lot, and I pull out the rubber bands. Libby, I'm sure this happens to you. And you got hair all over the rubber band, right?
Andy might be.
So we were in Costa Rica a little bit ago, and I took the rubber band off and put it on the counter. I went to take a shower, and I came out, and Raj said, I know, let's play a game. Let's pretend when you take these out that you put them a place where I don't see them. So
There's something about loose hair. I don't know. Gabby has lovely hair.
I understand. It's lovely here. It's not lovely on the
lovely over
bathroom
there.
sink. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But the whole idea is just to bring that energy instead of like, ugh, this is disgusting. Can you put this somewhere else?
Yeah.
Because when you were a kid, and you know, we like to bring play to a relationship. When you were a kid, you were like, hey, I know, let's do this. So it's just bringing that spirit.
totally agree. When Andy and I started, we lived together in the past, and we just actually moved into this condo together. And one of our things, this is so classic. I grew up with all sisters, so this was something I didn't realize was a thing because my dad jumped on our team, and the toilet seat was always down. Always, you know? So living with Andy in the beginning, it was always, always up. And I just started to kind of take on, this is probably inspiration by you guys because you're so good at this, but just being like, oh my gosh, I am so happy. I'm so happy right now. I get to sit down. I don't fall into the toilet. And like, that's like not the best example. I've had some better ones, but
it certainly is one that a lot of people out there can relate to, Libby, with the seat up. I mean, as a lady, we've all been there. You get up at night, you don't turn the light on, and you go to sit in the toilet, and you fall in. Yeah, we've been there.
Well, and I think when it's framed that way, I think we as men in general desire to please women at our core.
Totally.
I think it is just an inherent, innate, natural desire, and when things are framed in a way, when you frame something like, baby, do you know what would make me the happiest woman in the world? Immediately, I'm all ears, and there's nothing, it's so simple and beautiful. And
Yeah, you just melt, right? You're like, tell me, what do you want? I'll do it.
I like that. It's like, well, let's play a game is the playful, and then the next level, the passionate part is the sexy version. It's like, you know, it would make me and it's just the way you're saying it, Libby, the happiest woman in the world.
I've had some practice.
Totally.
Yeah, that was well
My
said.
Auntie Mahima is great at doing that. You know, she shows up for a visit and she's got a car full of stuff and baskets and fabrics. You know, she likes to create her space wherever she goes. And she just, you know, she'll get out of the car and say, you know, it make me so happy. I would love it so much. Would you help me unload my car? Would you do that for me, please? How could you say no?
Yeah. So the other thing that I'd like to just point out that I'll show the slide deck again is making a game out of drama-free diet. You know, you can say, hey, let's go for a week without being Blamey-Shamey-Complainy. Let's go for a day, even.
Yeah, go ahead and take them to the next slide because that's where it starts with your game. And the idea of your game is everybody's on a different page. You know, for Raj and I, we just like constantly play the drama-free diet. We don't we're always looking for what is the lowest threshold of tension in our relationship that we're willing to put up with, and to lower that and lower that and lower that, because we know it's not the big things, it's when we put up with those little things adding up that really starts to tear at your relationship. So it may be that you're in a, you know, kind of conflict-based place in your relationship. And if that's the case, maybe just play with 20 minutes. Maybe you're in an argument and say, okay, for the next 20 minutes, there's no blaming, shaming, complaining. And to do the magic ratio, which we're going to tell you how to do right now. And this magic ratio is from John Gottman, as I mentioned, our other favorite relationship researcher. And he studied and discovered that for a healthy relationship, you need to have a ratio of 5 positive experiences for every 1 negative one. So Raj and I took what Helen and Harville said about don't blame, shame, and complain, and we took what John Gottman said about what to do when there's a negativity to have a positive ratio. And so we'll say, catch ourselves saying, oh, was that a little blamey, shamey, complainy? Or ask our partner, was that a little blamey, shamey, complainy? And then we have to say 5 positive acknowledgments about the very specific thing we just said something negative about. We were just blaming, shaming, complaining about. And you can see, did you want to jump in?
Oh, go ahead. Finish,
okay,
yeah.
And you can see that it's not the first one, it's not the second one. You know, by the time you said the third one, they're almost back to neutral of where you were before you said that nasty thing. But if you go the 4th and the 5th, there's actually, you can see their face softening with every acknowledgement, and there's even more intimacy at the end than where you started.
Yeah, and as you see on the bullet point here, be specific and concrete. So we actually did one of these right before the show today. In fact,
you guys were getting on the green room, and Raj was in the bathroom giving me 5 acknowledgments. Like, honey.
I gave her a doozy on the first one, and I think I almost got it in one. You know, I was just acknowledging her. So, for example, Gabby, I really want to acknowledge you for how much work and effort and great work you've been doing this week. Right? We had some arguments today about, yes, we do argue. We had some arguments today, and so I decided to apply the Gottman's ratio. And you know, a little bit about brain science on this. The amygdala can
tell them what the amygdala is for those who don't know.
It's the old brain. It's the very small part of your brain that
the oldest critter animal
yeah.
brain. Reaction, fight or flight.
No control over. And
amygdala alert.
Yeah. And brain science has shown that the chemical releases that happen when your amygdala gets triggered lasts 90 seconds. And if you're upset any longer than that 90 seconds, it means that you're creating it yourself.
Yeah, you know when you're riding a wave, if you surf or boogie board and you're riding it all the way in and you kind of bounce that wave to keep it going, that's what the anger is like. There's a push of the wave and it can't stop you. It might even knock you over. But soon, to keep it going, you've got to be the one bouncing and creating the momentum. So you don't want to do that.
And the magic ratio, the reason it keeps going is you keep having the upset in your mind. So it happened, and then you keep reliving it and reliving it and reliving it, and the emotional releases keep happening. I mean, the chemical releases.
Can't believe you did that.
Yeah, like you're all in your head. Brian Franklin and Jennifer Russell said to us that you can have an argument with your partner when they're not even in the room. And so
you get home, you're driving home, you've already had the whole fight in the car before you get there, you open the door, you're like,
pissed.
Ah!
So the cool thing about Gottman's ratio is that it shifts your storytelling that keeps the upset alive to actually the opposite. It starts getting you present to the positives, and it really diffuses that, and it lets you really embrace the fact that your amygdala only survives that upset for 90 seconds. They also say that it takes about 20 minutes actually to fully flush your body of an upset, but anything longer than that is totally your doing.
Okay, so that's the magic ratio, the drama-free diet, the noose of negativity, blamey, shamey, complainy. So next time, you know, again, we like structures, so we like to print things out, put it on the refrigerator. In fact, I was talking to Raj today. We need to create a page for all of these images because we make them ourselves and have people be able to download them and put them on their refrigerator. Bathroom mirror, they're great places, but to make sure you see them because, you know, I mean, let's face it, you go from the kitchen to the bedroom and you forgot what you went into the bedroom to get, right? So put these, you know, someplace where you can remember them. Write them on a Post-it, you know, whatever. Put it in an alarm on your phone for the week. We do that with our goals as well, so we're reminded of them weekly. But let's go ahead and get to Andy and Libby's good stuff.
Yeah. So do you guys? We have our action option, which we'll do in a moment. But
oh, I forgot that. Sorry.
What do you guys hear in any of this about the Gottman's ratio and the Blamey-Shamey-Complainy?
Have you heard of the magic ratio before?
No.
No, this is the first time.
Oh, goody. I love sharing that one.
Oh, I get that.
I love it.
Well, it's simple. It's so practical. Like people say, don't be negative, don't complain, don't criticize, but you're going to. So what do you do? So it's, for me, I'm always looking for, you know, what's the knot at the end of the rope, so I have something to grab onto.
Yeah.
It's, you know how sometimes guys will do push-ups if they do some, like they'll create some structure, like, oh, if I bite my fingernails, I'm going to do 20 push-ups, and they'll like create something to have them stop biting their fingernails.
Totally.
If you do the 5-to-1 thing, it's kind of like doing push-ups, because if you have a Blamey-Shamey-Complaining moment and you're playing this game, you have to take the time and energy and effort to do the 5-to-1.
And it takes a lot. You got to think like, what's that fifth one? And I got to make sure it's not BS. And
Totally. We've done appreciations before of like saying 3 compliments or something, and it feels so elementary, but also it feels really good at the same time.
Right.
Even though it feels
well,
kind
I
of.
love that. You're being proactive. Just say 3 compliments. Don't even wait for the negative piece.
Well, it's generally after something negative. Like,
Okay. So you had your own version of a magic ratio. You had 3-to-1.
So, yeah, something similar like that is like, oh, say 3 nice things, and it feels slightly elementary, but like cool at the same time. Like even like it works. So.
Well, sometimes the most elementary things are the most powerful. I mean, look at, for example, taking a deep breath. It's insane how powerful just a few deep breaths can be. It's one of my favorite tools because you never leave home without it. It's free. You know, it never runs out of style. It always works. So simple's good.
We've done also appreciation hikes where one thing I've noticed, I hear Andy sitting here saying that it seems elementary, and I'm thinking it's because I can count a few times where it seems like the first acknowledgement can be kind of hard for him, like to squeeze out when he's in that state.
Oh, yeah.
And so when we kick this
Slow
off,
going.
I can't even count how many times we're like starting to feel the fight come on, and one of our tips is to like get in movement, and so we'll like head out the door on a walk if we have the time and space for it, or a hike. And we always kick it off with appreciations. And so if he's like struggling to squeeze one out, I'll dig deep and just come up with something that's so specific and so true and from the heart that it softens like the little icy shell that he kind of has in between us. And so it's like that leading by example and, I don't know, loving you in the way I want to be loved. But I love, like, the appreciations are so, I mean, so good. That's how we start and end our days.
Oh, you started. Well, I love hearing. Thanks for bringing that up, that you have practices on how you start and end your days. You know, Raj and I, of course, do as well. We say our wedding vow of the month to each other and our shared relationship vision, so that when we say that shared relationship vision, we instantly are going to hear any gap between what we declared who we are as a couple and where we're actually being. So you're not waiting for the problems, but you're actually hearing that marker. So what are your practices? You have those two. Do you have any other practices for your relationship? It doesn't have to be daily, but any other practices that you do that avoid those arguments?
Yeah. So one of the ways that we kind of look at the relationship is that we're constantly reinventing and we're constantly like creating the relationship together. And so one practice we try and do is every quarter we try and do some sort of retreat. Whether that's a couple days at home or we go rent like a mountain house for a few days, but it's designed to like generally get out of normal routine, and we sit down and we think about what do we want right now in our lives, and we generally have a series of sentence stems, and it can be like, what are your desires right now? What are you frustrated with right now? The money question that has often led to great results are, what are the desires that you have that you're afraid to share with me right now? And then we went into like, what are the top things that turn you on? What are the top things that turn you off? And we just.
Oh, these are good questions. I just want to pause there to say, Sarah, I hope you're writing some of these questions in the comments there. What do you desire? Go ahead, Andy. I just want to make sure she's getting these.
Yeah. We've got a series of them, and sometimes we just make up new ones on the fly. But the purpose is to get us in touch with what is it that we really want individually, and then how can we come together to create that and let our relationship serve as a platform to help us reach those things. So once a quarter that happens, and then that kind of sets the tone or the pace for the next generally 60 to 90 days or so. And then one of the one of the practices during the 60 to 90 days is we try and have one weekly board meeting, which is only functional about like those things that have to happen in our lives, and then one weekly date night, which is all about seduction and
Nice.
play.
It's our friends Amber and Nathan would call it the sacred and the secular.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Nice.
And,
I love that you focus on seduction on the date night. That's great. Do you
Yeah,
do you
rules.
offer to
no
seduce-
talking about career stuff, no talking about household stuff. It's all about that polarization and seduction and fun.
That's awesome. In season 1, episode 3, maybe, with Alex Almond.
4.
Episode 4. You want to check that
It's a
one out?
memorable one,
It's an awesome
1.4.
episode.
I'll just tell you, one of the bonuses of doing all these interviews is like
We
our
learn
relationship just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
And after that one of Alex Allman is How to Keep the Sex Dirty as It Starts. Whew, I wasn't even, it's the one interview I wasn't on. I was on a plane back from France. And but the next night that I came home, Raj has, in a decade together, never been sexier. So, Andy, check out what Alex had to say there.
Sounds awesome.
But one of the things that he mentioned in there was the ability to I never can say this word.
Compartmentalize.
Your life, meaning you might not want to have sex with the person that you're managing the day-to-day operations of your life with. However, you might really want to have sex with that sexy, awesome woman that you're attracted to, and so
They just happen to be the same people,
They are the
so
same
you
people.
got to put a different hat on at different times.
Yeah. He referred to former President Clinton and how he was great at that, being able to compartmentalize. Not specifically that, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
Be able to handle world matters, but then be able to focus in on your partner. Maybe not a great example.
Yeah, and I just, we're getting a little bit here into how to keep the fights clean and a little bit of the sex dirty before, which is so great because one of our core, we talk about the 3P of a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship, but we also talk about the 4th P, which is being proactive. And it's, it's underneath all of our work is, I often say the problem's not the problem. The problem is, you think the problem is the problem, is a problem. The problem is actually the path. And then our friend Libby, our friend Sasha Lala, she's condensed it into let your mess be your message. And so it's not really a problem, but if we're taking, action in advance and being proactive and that realizing that any complaint we have can be translated into something, of course our conversation with you goes into a really proactive nature, which I love, because we call them peace practices. And you guys, you said quarterly you do your little powwow, right? Yeah. You're gathering. And then monthly, Raj and I, we do something called the Sundra Sunday Reset Summit. I got to say that slowly because there's a lot of S's in there. And we have an agenda, and we go through, and is there anything that is unspoken, anything that hasn't been healed? I'm an extrovert, he's an introvert, so we talk about how much it's on the agenda, how much social time we have coming up, do we have house guests, all the things that normally cause us challenges and trip us up, we check in with in advance of them actually happening. So there's a lot of stuff to do in advance, but how about some other stuff for during? What do you guys do when you feel the itch for an argument coming on?
Do you want to talk?
I don't care.
So when we're to a point now, I think, where we're able to feel it within ourselves or feel it in the collective space when there's some sort of crunch there.
Crunch, good word.
Yeah.
And
crunchy going on.
Something's kind of crunchy or a little staticky.
Yeah.
And to be able to acknowledge that, I think, to ourselves. And first thing that I do, and that we've learned, I think, the hard way many a times, is just taking full responsibility for our own state.
I like your emphasis there, full responsibility.
And you guys touched on this a little bit around, like, hangry, like when you're hungry and angry, and we've tracked it because we're kind of nerds like that, but we've realized, when we're hungry or when we're tired or when there's just too much going on, not enough downtime, we haven't had our exercise or meditation, there's we're naturally just not vibrating as high, and things that would bother us, would normally not bother us, are becoming issues. And so a lot of fights, maybe they aren't about a core issue, but they're more just based on our physical state. And so that's something that we kind of check within ourselves, is just like, okay, is there something that I'm needing? Do I need to go have my own yoga practice, or have a snack, or I slept 4 hours last night? Like, that's going to be a thing. And so
the foundation, whenever there's tension, you first check in with your own personal body and see, is there anything that's causing that stress? That's a great first step.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took us about 2 years to figure this out.
And I think this was at Burning Man, when we did our opening circle, isn't this what they suggested? It's written in our manifesto: when there's conflict, check in with your body, drink water, get out of the sun.
Yeah.
Completely.
I would say, I don't know, until we realize this, 80% of our fights stem from something like this. Like, it's really this simple. Because when you're vibrating high, when you're rested, when you're taking care of yourself, the things that would normally bother you don't trigger you as much.
Well, it's a different part of the brain at work. I mean, because you're not using, you use your frontal lobe when you're thinking, you're consciously, and choice and empathy, all of that's up here. But your lower brain, when your body goes into, survival mode for whatever these stresses or triggers are, it's going to activate that lower brain. I'm fascinated by brain science and the chemistry of what's happening. Literally every thought you have creates a chemical reaction in your body. And so if you're not taking care of the body, then you're going to be having all sorts of crazy thoughts.
Just a quick note to our audience: if you want to join in on the Hangout Live, just refresh your browser and then click the Join the Hangout button, and you can come in and ask us questions if you'd like. You can also post questions in the chat window, the comment window, and we're happy to answer any of those. So we'd love to see you live if you want to join us. And I was thinking, what you guys are saying, I like this analogy of the battery. That
battery?
If your battery is drained, then you're not going to be doing so great.
Get the jumper cables out.
Yeah, get the jumper cables out.
That's like, do you need some loving? Just get the jumper cables out.
Get the jumper cables out. And you need to make sure that your battery is charged so that you can operate the way that you would like to in your relationship. You don't expect your car to be operating well if its battery's low or gas is out, and so you got to do the same with your body.
Totally. So that's
the first step always.
Yeah.
And then another thing, we've realized that there's a pattern that fights tend to brew when they're at probably the worst time possible. Like, you have an event or people coming to visit.
Parents are coming to visit.
Exactly. And I'm remembering. Okay. And
you did a memory flashback for your
time. And realizing, we've learned this one once again the hard way, enough to realize we are total personal development junkies, right? And so we also, you guys have said, we view these conflicts as opportunities for growth. And there was a time in our relationship where I think we almost had this scarcity mindset around our conflicts, where we were like, oh, conflict coming up, we need to sit and process through this. We need to sit and talk through this, And it was exhausting. And it came up sometimes at the worst times. And so through this process, we just developed the skill of being able to compartmentalize, or at least bookmark, or put it on the back burner for later, and come back.
A lot of that, I think, has to do with the time and the trust that you're building with your partner, that you know that you are both expanding individually and collectively as a couple, expanding your capacity to hold conflict and it still be okay. Like, I remember when I said to Raj, we were engaged and we had an argument one morning. This was just after New Year's, and I had said, "Oh, I'm so glad," we were laying in bed. I said, "Oh, I'm so glad that our breakdowns, our breakdown conversations, no longer lead to breakup conversations."
Yeah.
Well, that actually led to a breakup conversation. But that was early days, and now, we just know, and it really gives you motivation to resolve the conflict, because you're not saying, "I don't need this shit." This actually is ours, and it's not going anywhere.
It's our shit.
And it's probably we're doing this again for the umpteenth time, so let's do a little excavating together and figure it out.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's at some point you're just like, we're going to agree to let this one go, and we're just not going to go into it. And for whatever reason, that was a significant point in our development together. Like creating that muscle where you're feeling yourselves go into conflict, you know that it's not the right time, but part of you wants to anyway, and then just deciding to let it go. And it's been between that
What
and
should we name that muscle?
oh
I
yeah.
love how you described that, and I felt all the feeling. I could actually feel my body relax as you were describing that and using your hands. So I just want to anchor that and remember it. If you had to name that, what would you call it?
Letting it go, letting shit go.
Well, Let It Go is a good one. I mean, at least you could sing with all the kids. Start singing the Let It Go song from Frozen.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
I've got little nieces, so that song is quite popular.
It's like, I'm not going to be singing Frozen. So. One of the things that is really important.
I think you'd make a great Elsa.
He's more that guy on the sled with the thing. So one of the things that you're really presencing, Andy and Libby, and it's something Gabby and I even talked about this morning in the midst of one of our arguments, was this concept of I'm not your enemy. And often we can demonize our partner.
Otherwise known as, sorry, one second,
yeah.
Otherwise known as I'm your number one fan. We first started calling it I'm not your enemy, and then we started renaming it.
Yeah.
Really, I'm your number one fan.
Yeah, and like Gabby said, if you're really embracing the longevity of your relationship, the love that you have for each other, you can really ride through these bumps, these blips, this crunchiness, because like Gabby said, you know that you're there for each other and you'll work it out. We also encourage you to actually go back and actually don't just sweep those ones under the rug, because that can build up over time.
In fact, we wrote our blog last week, and it had even a picture of a broom and the rug. You know, if you keep sweeping things under the rug, eventually you end up tripping over them.
Yeah.
But that's why you guys have your quarterly, we have our monthly. That's where you're finding, oh, is there, because you might have even talked about it. Like a while back we had talked about some issue, but a month later it really wasn't totally just done for me, and we wanted to have it done.
Yeah, and if you notice that there's distance and separation and lack of intimacy with your partner, there's probably some unresolved or unspoken about things. And we have a lot of tools about how to communicate effectively. We'll just throw out some names so you can research them on your own or check out our stuff. The Imago dialogue.
That's our favorite for couples.
Or the nonviolent communication techniques. Do you guys have any other communication models that you guys?
Well, and before we go to other models, let me just say one sentence about each of those so people can go find them if they want them. The Imago dialogue is magical because it simply is making sure that your partner knows you've heard them. You could totally disagree with them, you could, but you're really mirroring what they say, and then you validate, like, I can see how I don't feel that way, but I can see how you would feel that way, and you empathize. Like, I care that you're upset. I care, that must be painful for you to feel that way. And if you can both do that, it has nothing to do with resolving the issue, and it's magical. It's so magical. I've told couples before, if it's not working, you're probably not doing it right, and go back to the instructions.
Yeah, and one of those most important steps, people just really want to be gotten when they're upset, and mostly what we do is we don't do that. We react to it.
Validate me, please.
Reject.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like magic if you just say, I totally got it. I can see how you'd be upset, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean you agree with them, just that you're in their shoes and you're getting it.
And the second communication tool that Raj just mentioned was Nonviolent Communication, NVC, otherwise known as compassionate communication. And their main message is, what do you observe? What are the facts? What are you feeling? But after those facts, what's the core human need that's not being met? If you're upset and having a negative feeling, it means there's a need not being met. If you're feeling positive emotion, it's because you have a core human need that is being met. And then finally, making requests. So this one we even apply in business and with the coaching Raj does with his company Transformance. Sometimes it's better just to set up a container just to hear each other and have no discussion of the outcome. And it's amazing how much gets resolved just hearing each other. But other times you need something a little bit more forward focused that has a request in it. And it's so powerful that the last thing I'll say here, it's so powerful to uncover what are your core human needs. In fact, we had flashcards of those on our refrigerator last month to identify what are the 7 core human needs. Should we see if we can name them all? Connection.
What's the
it's CHAPS.
CHAPS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Connection. Honesty. Honesty, trust. Play. peace. So those are great with our playful, peaceful, passionate. Physical safety and security. What are the other two? The S? Mastery was what the M is for. People want to get better at things and have a sense of mastery.
Safety is the S, I think.
Yes, S is safety.
Anyway, so a lot about that. You can check those things out.
But when you know what your core needs are, when you start feeling upset and you know those emotions, it just gives you a vocabulary to better be able to say what it is that's going on.
Right.
Totally.
Do you guys have any, Raj was asking you about communication models. Are you familiar with these or any others?
Yeah, I actually want to touch on a different topic. Because the communication stuff, I think it works really, really well, and we found a faster way to move through fights when they start happening.
One way. I want to do a little intro.
Yeah.
So I love that you guys mentioned NVC, because nonviolent communication, because that's a pillar in one of our practices, circling, which I'll talk about after Andy talks about this practice. But when you were talking, Raj, about you're not my enemy, and Gabby, you're all about brain health, which so am I. I love it. There's ways in which, like, that on a body level, like, we actually at times when we're in fight or flight, like, we do think our partner is the enemy. And there's a practice that we learned with this tantric master, and I'll let you take it from here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last year I spent 2 months in Bali, and Libby came for a month, and we were working with this man named David Cates. And he spent 40 years studying how energy flows through the body. And one of the most fascinating things for us, or one of his concepts about how memory works, is that memory is stored in the soft tissue in the body. And so you mentioned the amygdala earlier, Raj, and when it gets activated, cortisol starts flowing through the body, through the system, and your sympathetic nervous system goes into this fight or fight. Am I going to eat you? Am I going to kill you? Like, what should I do? And when that happens, the body overrides the emotions and the intellect, right? So the body, like, the way that it responds, what we found in the past, we could do all of this talking, but if we go straight to touch, and if we go to physical touch, our bodies can read each other in a whole different way. And there's actually a communication that happens from the bodies touching, where it can sense, I can feel into her body and she can feel into mine, and our bodies can feel, is this safe or is this not safe? And so what happens is that when if you pause and you look at each other in the eye and you start breathing and syncing your breath together, what happens is, instead of your sympathetic nervous system getting activated, your parasympathetic gets activated, and it reverses it. And instead of flooding your system with cortisol, it floods your system with oxytocin, which is the love drug, pretty much, or the love chemical.
I love you guys. This is awesome. You know I love that brain chemistry.
Yeah, and so from this place, what we've found in some of our most intense fights is that if we drop everything, we stop trying to talk through it, and we go to this place where we connect with our bodies, and we connect at that place, our bodies open, and when our bodies open, we can actually talk about the root issue, and we're not doing the, like, you did this or I did this, or you drop through all of the emotional, intellectual stuff, and you can actually speak from an open place, and
it cuts our fight times. We're all about efficiency.
Yeah,
right.
We've actually been fighting before, like packing for a trip to a plane, you know, going, we don't have time to have this argument. And I often tell people like, oh, I don't have time to do a workshop on relationships, or I don't have, we don't have time to have sex, or whatever it is. And I tell people, either invest a little bit of intention, attention, and action in advance, or pretty soon it's going to be demanded from you, and as you said before, one of the worst times possible.
Totally. We all have the same amount of time.
Awesome fight hack.
And then I think as you mix it with the communication stuff, it just creates a whole, like, you can just move through stuff so fast. And
yeah.
Now, Libby, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I know you wanted to talk about circling, and we want to tell people how they can find out more about what you guys are doing and with relationship fun and games and what we're up to. But let us know a little bit about circling first before we go.
So circling is something that I kind of stumbled upon, and it completely changed how I was able to be with myself and with others. Like, I was noticing just a drastic improvement, and then having like actual kind of quantitative results back. And Andy saw the transformation so much that him and his business partner, despite their super busy schedules of growing a company, they decided to jump in and do the 6-month training program. And we actually just re-enrolled. I'm on staff now, and Andy just came back as a participant. So for us to go a 3rd year into a program, it says something. Like, it's been really beneficial for us. And circling has been a practice that it's like a relational meditation, and there's a few different fundamental pillars. One of them is nonviolent communication. You basically learn how to speak to your partner in a way that you own your own experience. You make statements and claims that can't be argued with. And when you're in a triggered state, those tend to work a lot better than the blaming, shaming.
Usually, it works a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it is one of the most fascinating modalities that is really being awakened in a cool way. I feel like it's on the edge of what's happening in personal development. And the reason that we're investing, what, 2.5 years now or something, in really going deep with this, is because it is the one thing that I have found, that we have found, that drastically increases the space between stimulus and response. And now, when things would normally trigger us in the past, the trigger still happens, but now we have more space to be like, oh man, I notice that I feel really pissed off right now, or I notice, and I'm more connected to like the space in between to choose how to respond. And so I really don't
love that, the space in between to choose how I respond. It's like you're expanding, you know, the capacity, or how much space you have for that, you know, between the amygdala and going, oh no, I got that. Frontal lobe is got it under control. You can just calm down now.
Yeah.
We got this.
Yeah, and that really is a path to higher level of consciousness, just not reacting to your reactions, you know. Love that.
If someone wanted to find out more about circling, maybe you can tell us the URL, and Sarah, our moderator, if you could type it into the comments.
Let's look.
Great question.
People can always Google it as well, but just, you know, if you happen to have that.
It's taught here at the Integral Center. That's right,
Yeah.
actually, in our backyard in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay, great. The Integral Center in Colorado. Great. So people can look up circling.
Or just email us.
Yeah.
Email us and we'll tell you all about it. That's
All
cool.
right. Well, we're gonna share some of that information.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So.
Really great, you guys.
Yeah.
We so appreciate, you know, the depth. You know, you have both this natural ability, and you back it up by being voracious. You have this voracious appetite for learning, and I love the depth and breadth of what you learn. You know, it's not narrow at all. It's quite expansive, and I'm just really grateful that you are here generously sharing it with us and with all the couples watching, both live and on the replay.
Yeah, and one of the things that you're really exhibiting is something that we share pretty much every week, is that relationships take work to have them work.
They take play, we'd like to say. It's not work.
Yeah, and we expect them somehow to magically just work all of themselves if you find, quote unquote, the right person.
The autopilot attitude, we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, I want to add one thing to this that Libby said at one point, which is, it's along the lines of start looking at your relationship like it's an achievement or an accomplishment. And I think when you said something like that, it clicked for me in a different way. Like, I had never thought of it that way, and it's pretty neat to put the energy you would into a business or something.
I think that works.
It's like this feeling of like, ta-da, this is us.
That's great. I love it. Can you guys do that?
So it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Well, one of our favorite lines is wonderful is worth it. We say that it does take something, but again, if you do a little bit over time and you don't let things get too bad, it's just like with your health or with your business or with anything else. If it gets too bad, it takes so much to make there be an improvement, and it's such a Herculean effort. You might get cynical and resigned or think it's not possible, but if you break it down into small actions, a little bit over time can make a huge difference.
Yeah, in a moment we'll tell you about a intro free webinar that we're going to be offering
tomorrow night,
and you can learn more about how you can be proactive about your relationship and really have it be the way that you'd like it to be.
Yeah, you want to share the screen?
Yeah.
I think we actually forgot to show them the action option.
It's good because we'll remind them of
And Andy and Libby, when we're going through this, think if there's any action option, you know, kind of Mission Impossible style, don't. We like to invite couples at the end to really look at, like, okay, how can I use and adapt this? What can I do now? Not just like have an aha inspiring moment or that's a good idea, even if it's as small as writing something on a post-it and putting it somewhere. But think of an action option, and we'll go through this one and a couple other slides.
Okay, so
you want me to do this?
Yes.
Okay, so the action option for this one, and this was related to the drama-free diet. So first, you know, as we said, it's your turn, your game, so pick a time that works for you. All right, 20 minutes, forever, in between, a week, whatever, that you're going to play this game. And then during that time, really refrain from any blaming, shaming, or complaining at all, as much as possible. But when you do catch yourself blaming, shaming, or complaining, catch yourself. If you need to catch your partner, do it in a compassionate, playful, loving way. And then go the extra mile, do the full 5, and say 5 positive acknowledgments about the very specific thing that you were just complaining, blaming, shaming, criticizing about.
And one of the things you'll notice if you take this on is how much you complain or blame or shame. It really brings attention and consciousness to that. And if you actually practice not doing it, you start developing that as your new way of being.
And not just in your own relationship, but when we started doing this, I was in my closet one day and I was like, oh, I don't like any of this. My closet's too crowded, you know, all of my clothes isn't put away from the last time I washed it. It's a mess. And I was beating myself up over the most stupid things. And I was thinking, wait a second, let me apply the negativity, the drama-free diet here. And I was like, you know, if I had to say 5 positive things for every 1 negative thing I said in my head, I might be pretty busy. But the more you commit to it, then you actually stop doing that bad habit. So don't just apply it to your partner, apply it to you as well. So you can find out more about this tip at relationshipfunandgames.com, and either look under the blogs under Fights Clean and look for that logo, or you can specifically look for the most recent one at the top, which is the Noose of Negativity and the Drama-Free Diet.
And you can find that in the comments window as well. Just a little note, refresh your browser. It updates the comments as they come in.
Oh, great. Okay, refreshing your browser. All right, and just a few other places. We have 3 URLs here for how to find out more about Libby and Andy. You know, the first 2. The first one's Andy's newsletter I mentioned at the beginning, Illumination. And I love he even asks you a few questions initially and says he reads every one. And Andy, I did answer those questions, but I love that you do that. They were great questions, really great questions.
If you really want to take advantage of any time that you can have with Andy, he's such a brilliant, sharp mind that thinks very pragmatically, but very like intellectually and heart-based at the same time.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, cutting edge. Libby, you called yourself some kind of a geek, and I was thinking, you guys are geeks, you're life hacks. You know, you're like scientists of what works, and I so appreciate it. You know, we're really good at taking the best of the science out there and making it and delivering it in a great way. But I know the level of study that you guys go to, and I just so appreciate that. So you can also check out Andy at the Foundation, the company that he has built with his partner Dane. You can check that out there, and I love that they bring not just business and how to help people start their own businesses in the computer, online, software world, but actually personal development as well, which is so cool to have those 2 combined, because it's confronting to start a business. So they really got in there and looked at all angles of it. And of course, relationshipfunandgames.com, where you can check out, oh, yes, thank you. Raj just pointed out powerful partnerships, and I just want to point out that is not a spelling error. That is .co, I assume, for Colorado, since you guys are in Colorado. So don't put an M on that. That'll take you somewhere else. But you can check out more on Libby on powerful partnerships. And then we just want to give you a little bit of information about tomorrow night.
Well, first of all, let's just tell you a little bit about our quick start kit.
We want to give you our freebies.
Yeah, lots of great stuff here. Really well done and easy to apply tips to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. We have our 4-part mini email course. This is some of our top tips.
Like the hot and bothered backseat driver. That's a real popular one.
Yeah.
Stop fighting in the cars.
Yeah, so really potent tips there to have your relationship be the way that you'd like it to be. Also, how to keep the fights clean, sex dirty free guidebook.
Which is a 16-page summary, really done in a great graphics way. You can scan it real easily and find the tips that you find most intriguing, maybe even 1 or 2 that we talked about tonight. And so you can even print that out and post it somewhere where you can see it.
And then finally, in that free gift package is access to our weekly TV shows, our Fight Clean Sex Dirty TV shows, and the replays.
Yeah, we have 3 seasons right now, and they're all available to you. In a few months, they won't be, and they'll be for sale. But right now, they're there, so go and enjoy them.
Great. And Sarah, if you could put that in the comment window as well. Get free gifts made.
And last but not least.
Still not there yet.
Oh.
So we have our ebook. If you want to go the next step and get the full ebook, which the free guide is sort of a shorter version of it, the How to Keep the Fights Clean and the Sex Dirty.
That's the extended of the accordion version. So you're not just getting 1 or 2 tips in each of these topics, but you're getting 3 or 4 tips in each of these topics. So you have a real choice of which ones work best for you.
And we go through the 5 steps to solutions that really satisfy.
Really satisfying. We say that because so many times people come up with solutions, and I put quotes on them because they're the unconscious default behaviors like withholding or, you know, just allowing yourself to grow separate, and they're not really, or, you know, saying you first, that they're reactions, but they're not really solutions. So we talk about solutions that really do it. They really satisfy.
Okay, and here's the one.
Now's the one that I wanted to talk about. Yes, tomorrow, because I love to see you live. I love to hear your questions, so I hope you come tomorrow night. You know, we talked about tonight the number 2 reason that a relationship fails is that negativity, but tomorrow night we'll be talking about the number 1 reason, so and how you can transform your relationship so it's not doomed, you know, by the default, but you're actually creating a delightful one by design. And as we like to look at keeping the fights clean and the sex dirty, you know, we'll talk about how to be a fabulous fighter, as I said earlier, save being nasty for your sex life, and how to just be turned on by your partner in life again. You notice, I love that about you, Libby, like things that aren't even sensual, you make sensual. Like asking Andy to take out the trash, like, you know, it would make me so happy.
Yeah.
It's just great. And that's what we mean. It's like, you know, compartmentalize in areas, but, you know, you really want to bring that, you know, juiciness, and you do that so well.
Thank you.
And finally, a little bit
week.
about next week's show, where we're going to be talking about how to keep the sex dirty as it starts.
Speaking of the sensual side, this is all about the seduction. And we're going to have Rob Scott and Renee Hagel, and they met as a couple, and they were instantly completely together, committed. He left, leaving I think he was living in Philadelphia, and moved to Detroit to be near her and her son. And they're going to come and talk about how to keep the sex dirty as it starts. And her program is called Love Yourself Naked. And Rob is just a master coach working with people in all sorts of technology and all sorts of different realms. So they have a lot of great wisdom to share with us.
So everybody, that is our show for tonight. Thanks so much, Andy and Libby, for joining us and sharing your brilliance and your wisdom.
And sexiness.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thanks for having us.
So much fun.
So great. Well, this is it, your first one. What'd you think? Your first interview on relationship. Did it go okay?
I loved it. I'm like sitting here, I'm like, oh, we've got more. We've got more.
I know.
Good. Okay. We'll have to have you come on back.
Yeah. No, partnership, I mean, being entrepreneurs and everything, like partnership is still my chosen path to spiritual development, and also like our relationship is my most favorite creation. So far.
Love that.
I love that. The one that is creation, and two, you know, Raj and I, we often say we take business principles and bring them to relationship. Like EBI is even better if, like we even have a tool for EBIing our sex life. Like, how do you make sure you're always having better and better sex? You got an EBI system, right? And then we're also taking relationship practices like nonviolent communication and bringing those to the workplace. So I love that you guys do that as well. So we'll have to keep digging and scratching and sniffing with each other's wisdom.
Sounds awesome.
Love you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Love you. Have a great night.
You
too. Take care.
Thanks, everybody, for joining. We hope you have a playful, peaceful, passionate relationship. And if there's any way we can support you, let us know. Let us know what topics you want to know about. We are here to blow wind in the sail of the most amazing relationship you can imagine.
Good night, everybody.